6 years ago, my wife deleted a message from my parents offering me their business. I only found out after they brought it up recently. She finally admitted everything. I am 35 years old now, and my wife, Rebecca, is 32. We have been married almost 6 years, but we were together nearly 4 before tying the knot. We also have 2 little girls now. We both grew up in Oregon and never left the state. Our town is small, the kind of place where everyone knows each other. Rebecca and I had known each other since we were kids. Neither of us left Oregon for college either. We picked a nearby school, and that is where our friendship turned into something more. Our families used to get along just fine until they suddenly didn't. It had everything to do with my parents. 1 month before our wedding, my parents cut off all communication with me. No warning. No fight. Just silence. They did not even show up at our wedding. That alone was confusing and painful. As far as I knew, we were on good terms. There had not been any major arguments or anything like that. One day they were in my life, and the next day they were gone. I tried to get in touch with them. I sent messages. I called. I was blocked on every platform. So, I drove to their house. The neighbors told me they had moved out and that they were not expected back anytime soon. This all happened exactly 1 month before I got married. It messed me up. I had no idea what was going on. At the reception, some of my cousins on my mother's side told me my parents had moved to Seattle to run a business owned by my mother's uncle. Now, my parents had worked in management roles for years, so I understood why this was a big opportunity for them. I was happy they had something good going for them, but I could not understand why they did not tell me before making such a big decision. What stung even more was learning that they brought in one of my cousins to handle the marketing department instead of me. That hurt. They knew I had experience in marketing and dreams of starting my own business. It felt like I was deliberately left out. That business could have been my way in. I could have learned from my parents, built something meaningful, and eventually taken over the company myself. But they handed the role to someone else and left me behind without even giving me the chance to consider it. That is when I stopped trying to reach out. I figured if they could move on like that, then so could I. It felt selfish and cold. Rebecca supported my decision to cut ties. She said their absence at the wedding said all I needed to know about how much they really cared. So, for the next 6 years, I did not speak to them. I did not reach out when Rebecca got pregnant or even after our first daughter was born. I posted pictures of my family online, and I knew people from both sides were seeing them, including my parents, but they never contacted me. For a long time, I stayed angry. But when our second daughter arrived about 2 years ago, something in me changed. I figured if they ever did reach out again, I would at least hear them out. I wanted to understand why they had cut me off like that. A few weeks ago, they finally did. I had heard from relatives that their business was growing and that they were planning to open a branch back in Oregon. It made sense. They were coming home after nearly 6 years in Seattle. When they messaged me, they said they were not moving down for good just yet, but they wanted to visit and talk. I agreed to meet them for lunch after a few messages back and forth. That lunch happened about 2 weeks ago. It was strange how natural it felt. They were excited to see me, and I showed them pictures of their grandkids. My mom nearly cried. They told me they were heartbroken that I had kept them out of my life for so long and never even made an effort to visit them. That threw me off. I had believed all along that they were the ones who left me behind. They were the ones who blocked me. They were the ones who never gave me an address or a chance to come visit. I said that to them calmly, but clearly. Then my mother mentioned that she had sent me an email and asked Rebecca to pass it on to me, even after I had supposedly sent them a horrible message. That was the moment I knew something was off. I had never sent any angry message. I had never cursed at them. I never even got the chance to reply. And Rebecca had never told me anything about an email. I looked at them, totally confused. Then my dad stepped in and told me what really happened. He explained that the day they got the call from my great-uncle about taking over the business, they had called me immediately to share the news. My mom had worked for her uncle years ago and had always left the door open to go back. Now he was retiring, and they were being offered the keys to the company. They thought it would be a perfect fit for me too. They knew I worked in marketing and figured I could come along and grow with them, eventually even take over. The only downside was we would all have to move to Seattle. But at the time, I was not married, and we did not have kids yet. It was doable. They said Rebecca answered the phone that day. I was not home. I had gone out with friends and forgotten my phone. Rebecca told them she would tell me when I got back. My parents were happy with that. But then, an hour later, they got a message from me. A message full of insults. It said I would not let them interfere in my marriage with some sleazy offer. It accused them of trying to get rid of Rebecca. The message said they had never supported her and were now trying to bribe me away from her. They were shocked. That was not how I talked. It was not how I thought. But they figured maybe I had changed. Still, my dad said they sent one last email with their new address and left the door open in case I changed my mind. After that, they blocked me everywhere else and left for Seattle a couple of days later. I never saw that message. I never wrote that reply. But suddenly, it all made sense. After lunch, I could not shake the feeling. I had to confront Rebecca. So I left early and drove home. When I got back, it was just her and me. The kids were still with her parents. I had not told her about meeting with mine, mostly because I knew how she felt about them. But now, I needed answers. I looked her in the eye and asked why she never told me about the message. She acted confused at first. Played dumb. But I pushed, and finally, she admitted it. Yes, she deleted the message. Yes, she wrote that angry reply to my parents pretending to be me. And no, she did not feel bad about it. She actually believed she had done me a favor. I was not just hurt, I was furious. Rebecca had kept something that massive from me for 6 straight years, and what made it worse was that she did not even seem to feel bad about it. Instead, she acted like she had done me some sort of favor, like I should be thankful she took matters into her own hands. She sat there and explained how she was the one who wrote back to my parents, pretending to be me. All those awful things that message said, they were her words. She claimed she was just being honest, saying what she believed was true. She thought my parents never really liked her. Said they looked down on her for not having some big career path like everyone else in my family. Rebecca was the kind of person who went to college mostly for the experience, not because she wanted to climb a corporate ladder. She had always said she just wanted to settle down, raise a family, and be a mother. There is nothing wrong with that, I respected it. But she was convinced my parents did not. She believed they were judging her, and when they asked me to move to Seattle a month before our wedding, she saw it as a setup. She thought they were trying to split us up by luring me away with a shiny business opportunity. That was her reason for deleting the messages and the email. She did not want me to back out of the wedding or even consider leaving town. She admitted she had no interest in starting over somewhere new, where she had no friends or family. She wanted to stay put, and she made sure I stayed too, even if it meant burning every bridge I had with my parents. I snapped when I heard that. All to keep her life comfortable, she had destroyed 2 of the most important relationships in mine. She did not just lie, she made choices that shaped my entire future without even asking me. And now she was sitting there, justifying it like she had protected me. The truth? My parents had never treated her badly. They actually liked Rebecca and welcomed her into the family from day one. I still do not understand how she twisted their actions into something sinister. Even if she felt insecure, all she had to do was talk to me. I would have stood by her and done everything I could to reassure her. But she did not trust me enough to do that. She handled it her way, and in doing so, wrecked everything. I missed out on working side by side with my parents. I could have been trained, mentored, and eventually taken over the family business, doing something I actually cared about. Instead, I ended up stuck in the same small-town job with no growth, no excitement, and no sense of fulfillment. I worked there for years because once the kids came along, I could not afford to risk our stability. I had mouths to feed. Because of her, I wasted prime years of my life in a dead-end job. I could have been building something with meaning, but instead I just clocked in, got through the day, and waited for the weekend to feel like myself again. We argued hard that day. I was boiling inside, and still, Rebecca would not say sorry. She kept saying she did it for me, that she had my best interests at heart. But that was not true. She had her own fears and made a choice based on them. She never once thought about what was right for me. I am not a child. I should have been given the chance to decide for myself even if I ended up choosing wrong. At least then, the decision would have been mine. At least then, I would not have spent years wondering what could have been. She did not just make a mistake, she took control of my life and lied about it for years. What stings the most is how much time I lost with my parents. Time you never get back. They missed the birth of my daughters. They missed holidays, birthdays, and milestones they should have been a part of. Even if I join their business now, those years are gone. That is something Rebecca can never fix, no matter how sorry she might pretend to be, and she was not even pretending to be sorry. The least she could have done was own up to it and apologize. But she just kept defending herself. I could not take it anymore. I packed a bag, left the house, and checked into a hotel. I needed space from her, from the lies, from everything. I was beyond fed up. Her refusal to take responsibility made my skin crawl. That night, I handed in my notice at work. 2 weeks and I was out. I had already talked to my parents after our lunch, and now I was sure I was going to join them. It was time to do something that actually made me feel alive again. I did not bother telling Rebecca. She had not told me the truth for 6 years. I figured she could find out the same way I did after the fact. She tried calling me multiple times, but I kept my phone off. I just wanted quiet. I sat in that hotel room and watched mindless television, opened a bottle of wine, and let the silence drown out everything. For 2 days, I avoided speaking to her. But I missed my kids, so I stopped by the house here and there just to see them. Every time I showed up, she would try to talk, try to convince me that somehow she was still the victim in all this. That my parents were stirring up trouble. That everything had been fine until they came back. But it was never really fine, not for me. My job paid the bills, but I hated every minute of it. That office drained the life out of me. Nobody cared about ideas, nobody wanted change, and I was just another name on the payroll. Rebecca did not care as long as the checks cleared. The only thing that mattered to her was stability, not whether I felt like I had a purpose. Over the years, she talked me out of every new opportunity. Every time I wanted to explore a different job or try starting my own thing, she would remind me how risky it was and how we needed to keep things steady. I used to think she was just being cautious, but now I see how much of it was about her own comfort. And still, after all that, she stood there blaming my parents, refusing to admit that she had caused all of it with one decision and 6 years of silence. There had been more than a few times in the past when Rebecca discouraged me from exploring new job offers or even trying to start my own business. She always said she wanted a stable life, and I respected that. But the more I think about it, the more it feels like it was less about stability and more about control. She wanted everything to stay exactly where she felt safe, even if that meant I had to stay stuck. What made it worse was how she never took responsibility for anything. Every time something came up, she found a way to blame someone else. Usually, it was my parents. A few days ago, I stopped by the house in the evening to visit the kids. While I was there, Rebecca started in on another one of her rants. She told me I was letting my parents control our relationship. That I needed to think for myself. I had enough at that point. I told her I finally was thinking for myself, and she just did not like the fact that I was no longer doing what she wanted. That pushed her. She stopped arguing and asked me a question, the kind of question that sticks in your head. She admitted that she had lied to me back then, but then she looked me in the eye and asked if I was truly unhappy with the life I had. She said that if she had not lied, I probably would have accepted my parents' offer, moved to Seattle, and canceled our wedding. She said she was not ready to leave her entire life behind and move across states just for a business opportunity. And if we had never gotten married, then we would not have had our 2 daughters, the same kids I love more than anything. Then she asked me, "Is that really the life you would have chosen?" I could not answer. I stood there, not saying a word. I went back to the hotel and just sat in silence, thinking. It has been a couple of days since that conversation, and I still have not worked up the nerve to go back home. At first, I thought I would wait for her to apologize and then figure things out. But now, I do not know what to do. I love my daughters, no question about that. They are the best thing that has ever happened to me. I still love Rebecca too, in a way. Not everything about the last 6 years has been bad. There were happy days, good memories, even moments at work that made me feel useful. But now I am stuck on that question. I do not know how to answer it. I have not talked to my parents about any of this because we are keeping things light between us. None of my friends know what is really going on either. That is why I came here, to figure it out. I do not know if I am wrong for being angry. I do not know if I am right to feel betrayed. But I know I do. Update 1, I sat down with my parents and told them everything. Their response was simple. They said that no matter what, Rebecca should have told me the truth. Period. They explained that the only conversation they ever had with Rebecca was about her future plans. My mother told her, as a working woman, she would never judge or discourage another woman from choosing her own path, whether that meant a career or staying at home. They told Rebecca they would support whatever decision she made. For some reason, Rebecca took that as judgment. She assumed they looked down on her for wanting to be a stay-at-home mother. But they never said anything like that. She never asked for clarification. She just jumped to the worst conclusion and made a life-altering decision based on it. Honestly, after hearing all this, I lost whatever respect I had left for her. I do not even know how to picture myself going back to that house. It has been about a week since we last spoke, and she has not reached out. Maybe she thinks she won the argument with that one question, the one about whether I would give up the life I have for something that never happened. Here is the truth, maybe I am content with how my life turned out. But that is because I made the best of what I was left with. It was not her place to close that door without telling me. Maybe I would have chosen her anyway. Maybe I would have turned down the job offer. Maybe I would have stayed, but I would have stayed knowing it was my choice. And that makes all the difference. Yes, she gave me 2 daughters. But that does not give her the right to act like she did me a favor. That does not mean she gets to use them as leverage in a conversation like this. After hearing my parents out, I finally know what I have to do. Even if I find it in myself to forgive her, I do not think I will ever be able to trust her again. And without trust, there is no marriage. It is not even about the job anymore. It is about the lies. It is about her pretending like she had the right to make those calls and then acting like she saved me in the process. I cannot live like that. I should not have to. As hard as it is to admit, I know what needs to happen now. Divorce is the only path forward. Update 2, I filed for divorce yesterday. Honestly, I feel a strange kind of relief. Like I can finally breathe. I still have not been back to the house, and that has been the hardest part, not seeing my daughters. I miss them more than I thought possible. I thought about stopping by, even just for a few minutes. But I do not know how Rebecca will take it, and I am not ready for another argument. So, I have just kept my distance. I know it is not the right approach, but I am doing the best I can with what I have got. Once she gets the official divorce papers, we will figure out what comes next. Update 3, the divorce process is underway. To my surprise, Rebecca handled the news better than I expected. A couple of days after she found out, she called me. She said she knew it was coming and only had one request, that I would not ask for full custody of our daughters. I promised her I would not. No matter how badly things went between us as a couple, I would never take the girls away from their mother. Rebecca may have failed me as a partner, but she has always been a good mom, and I will never deny that. Right now, we are working through the details. The mood is civil. We are being as polite as we can be, but there is no hiding the pain on either side. This was not how either of us thought things would end. But here we are. Update 4, a quick one. It has been almost 7 months, and the divorce is final. The custody arrangement is in place. I have joined my parents at the company, and since they are opening a location nearby, I will be managing the branch here. The kids stay with me for half the week, and the other half with Rebecca. She got a little more in alimony than I expected, but I am not going to fight it. It is over. What matters is that I have a new start. I have a job I actually enjoy, a future I am building for myself, and time with my daughters that means everything. For the first time in a long time, I feel like my life is actually mine again.